Hello, my name's Chris Paul, and I am the CEO and founder of Man on Inverclyde, a mental health charity based in Greenock in the west of Scotland. And we're bringing you this message today to raise awareness of mental health and raise awareness of our charity and how we can maybe support you, your friends, or your loved ones if you need it. Now, we started off as a suicide prevention charity and we're continuing that mission. We want to break the stigma attached to mental health. We want to break the stigma attached to men's mental health, and I know that a lot of men will be listening to this podcast. So please get in touch with us via Man on Inverclyde on social media. You'll find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you're not on social media and you want to get in touch with us via email, just type in support@manoninverclyde.com. Our landline here is 01475 910 258. So yeah, get in touch with us if you're struggling with your own mental health or you're concerned about a friend or a family member. One of our staff members, our volunteers, here to support you. Thanks for listening.
Hello and welcome to the Gallant Few Rangers podcast. I'm Chris Paul and I'm going to be your host for tonight. We're looking at an amazing week that we've just had as Rangers fans, so thank you very much for popping along into tonight's podcast as we aim to talk about an amazing week. So I'm going to be introducing the guests tonight. First and foremost, we've got Davie Pollock. How's things, Davie?
Things are absolutely fantastic, Chris. I'm in a week-long dream until I step onto the plane next Monday. So looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Brilliant. And we've got Craig Campbell. Craig, first time I've met you, mate. How's things with yourself? Good week?
Hola, amigo. Obviously brushing up on my Spanish skills for this coming Monday, but just on cloud nine, just like what the big guy says before me there, I literally have not come off the ceiling in the last 2 days. I'm waiting for the crash and it's still not coming. So it'll probably not come until next Friday when I'm flying home. But amazing, mate.
Aye, unbelievable, mate. Unreal. I'm the same as you. It just feels a wee bit surreal just now, but I'm sure it'll kick in shortly. And lastly, we've got a return to the podcast by Kenny. Kenny, how's things with yourself, mate? I know you're in to talk specifically about Rangers women winning the league.
Yeah, I'm all right. I've just been, obviously, you know yourself, been busy for the last few months, and especially when the women's season's on, my head's always down. So it's good to get a wee bit of a rest after so many months.
Aye, definitely. And I suppose that's a good place for us to kick off, is talking about, obviously, Rangers women winning the league. I'd obviously saw everything on social media yesterday. So can you tell us a wee bit about that journey and how big a win that was yesterday?
Yeah, well, I think anyone that follows Rangers would have definitely seen in the last few years, there's definitely been a lot more work going on to try and integrate the women and make it have this one club policy about us. So they played Glasgow City there at the weekend, ended up drawing with them and ending Glasgow City's 14 titles in a row, which obviously for anyone to do that in the women's game is certainly it certainly is a amazing feat for them. Malky Thomas has came in the last few years and certainly done a great job. I know obviously Vignal was in there for a while as well. Andy Gardner's been in before him, actually working with his assistants. So the foundations were laid a few years ago, and obviously with them going professional, you'll have seen a lot more players coming from overseas to play for them, and even in the Women's Player of the Year this year, Lindsay Arnott just missed out on an award there to a very good player in Chinchilla who ended up winning it. So no, definitely made big strides over the last few seasons. Even over COVID, where things were a bit stop-start, and women's teams didn't have the luxuries that the men's team did. To almost be not exempt, but have those exceptions put in place. I know obviously women were delayed in coming back, so they didn't have enough time, or they didn't have as much time before the season. They didn't have the same access to facilities as some men's team done. But no, I think it's fair to say that Rangers have definitely led the line and set an example of bringing the women's game into the 21st century and moving forward.
That's brilliant. No, it's great to hear. 14 years in a trot for Glasgow City's obviously tremendous dominance. But did we come close last year, if I remember right? I remember there was something sort of running it down to the wire. I don't know if it was us or another team.
It was. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It was just more of a three-way race last year, and there was actually an Old Firm match towards the end of the season. I can't remember if we could beat or drew that. I think it was either 2 each or 2-1, and that pretty much just killed it for us. And that let City obviously go on and win the 14th title. But no, definitely the Rangers team, you would have seen yourself, like a lot of the more maybe well-known players left this summer, and they added into that squad. So we've certainly not stood still.
That's brilliant. No, it's good. So what do they now then build obviously for this and try and get a bit of dominance themselves?
Yeah, I would say obviously try and maintain that title, and for the next year after that, they'll have the European competition to go into now. Glasgow City, using them as, you need to look at them as the model. They have been so successful both domestically and, they've had success in the Women's Champions League in the past few years as well. So, that they've certainly got the benchmark to strive for and to push for. And a club the size of Rangers, I don't really think there's any excuses as to why they wouldn't get there.
Definitely. No, it's brilliant. No, cheers for that update, mate. And hopefully it keeps going in the right direction, because we have noticed this, I suppose, across the youth setup as well, that standards seem to be going up across the whole of the club. And obviously we're going to touch on our sort of, I suppose, the men's side and what we're talking about in Seville and the progress there. And you just hope that filters down to everybody in the club.
Yeah, I mean, it's from speaking from like the, obviously that in the coaching setup in Scotland, like there's like a lot more demand now for coaches to go out there and get their UEFA badges and go on all these different courses. I've been on a few myself the last year. I've been up in like Dundee. Eventually, I felt like forever I was waiting to get up to get going with my UEFA badges again. But there's certainly more of a, not like a minimum requirement, I guess you could say. And like the coaching setup, there's a lot more of a professional academy, professional mindset in these academies now. Just off the top of my head, an example. So all the boys academies, they play their games in Friday nights. The SFA are bought into the women's game, especially the likes of your SWPL1 teams. They filter down there with their performance teams, with their academies. They're looking to start them playing on Friday nights as well, and basically take that model from the boys team or the boys game and move that over into the women's. So it's there's definitely that, people and associations are making moves.
Brilliant. That's great, mate. Cheers for that. And hopefully, as I say, things keep kicking on for the women's game and for Rangers, obviously, to continue winning trophies, because that's really what it's all about. But no, thanks for coming on and doing that. Feedback, Kenny, much appreciated.
No worries. I'll see you in Seville next week.
See you soon, mate. See you soon. Cheers.
Yeah, take care.
So yeah, back on to obviously the men's game there, and obviously it was good for Kenny to come along and share that, because it's important that we know what's happening, I suppose, across the whole of the club, and when we're successful, it needs to be celebrated. For back to the men's game, I think it doesn't really get much more successful than the game that we've just watched, obviously, on Thursday, the Leipzig game. Davie, I'm going to come to yourself for this. Obviously, we'll maybe look at the game itself, but I just want to touch on something that has been well commented on, just in terms of the atmosphere. As we've known on the podcast for yourself, Davie, you are a well-travelled Rangers man. You've been following Rangers for a lot longer than I have. And was that the best atmosphere you've ever experienced inside a stadium?
Well, I haven't, after Thursday night, in the being at the game, kicking every ball. I had a think about it after the game as to whether it was the best ever. And about 1 second later, I come up with the answer, yes, it was. The Thursday night was just a magical experience. The whole crowd, from the kickoff all the way through, everyone in the stadium was just so emotionally attached to what was going on in the pitch, reacting to every event, every kick of the ball, throw in, corner, every refereeing decision. Everyone was in it, full tilt. It was just fantastic. And leaving the ground, my mates are in the Copeland rear, so I'm on the club deck on my own. Leaving the club deck, going down the stairs, and I was just that wee bit detached. But the scenes round about me were just absolutely fantastic. I'll remember it forever. It was just mass hysteria. It was absolutely wonderful. And the buzz, I never got to, it was daylight when I got to my bed, and after that, after having, battered BT's highlights for a few sessions, absolutely fantastic game. Just what you dream about, wasn't it? It was dreamlike. And to do it, and we've done it again and again. We just keep coming over these hurdles. We've only got one more to go, and this team will truly be legends. They'll be the Barcelona Bears and the Seville Saviours, or whatever they'll be dubbed. Something. No, but fantastic, Chris. Fantastic. Amazing. Just stuff that dreams are made of.
Aye, no, it's good to hear you say that, because certainly in the time that I've followed Rangers, that's the best I've felt. I think it's the most I've felt the fans together with the team. Even at half time, we were singing a John Lundstram song. Usually you're getting everybody going for their drinks or their food or whatever. I just kind of felt as if everybody stayed and we're singing. And I think as well, we'll talk a wee bit about the game if anybody can actually remember it. But I think that we were feeding off how much Leipzig were actually struggling with it, because they came out and folded. Craig, what about yourself? Obviously, Davie touched on it. It's the best he's experienced. Is it the same for yourself?
Aye, do you know what? I've been doing a lot of reflection on it in the last few days, and I think Rangers Football Club means something specific to every one of us, and it will have, for me, it reminds me of growing up going to the football with my granda and having that connection with my granda, and then being able to pass it on to my son. And I remember the first ever game I took my son to when he was 5, and it was an Armed Forces Day game, and I lasted until half time. And I thought, this is a disaster. This isn't going to happen. And slowly but surely started enjoying going to football. And Davie was talking about the hysteria, and I've never experienced a match like that. At half time, the boy behind me actually says that I feel as if I've been here all day. The sweat was lashing off me. My voice, I had no voice at half time. When we scored, it was just grabbing my boy and just going, this is what it's all about. And then see at the end of the game, I get kind of lost in the I'm feeling it. And then I turned to my wee boy, and he had his hands in and he covering his face, and he was crying. And I'm I thought something had happened to him, and I turned to him, I'm are you all right, wee man? And he turned to me and he says, Dad, we're just the best team in the world. And I'm I've done it. The wee man, he's got what I've got about Rangers now. And it's then I've got memories of Manchester, and I'm my wee boy gets to do that. Only he gets to do it in the sun, and I had to do it in Manchester. Just the best experience I've ever had. By the way, I'm not even just talking about football. I'm talking about up there with experiences in life, man. And then it just hits me every so often. I'm Rangers in a European final. we can actually win a European Cup here. As you can tell, I'm still a wee bit excitable, but honestly, Glasgow Rangers, man, wow.
No, I was the same with my boy as well. Turning around to him, how emotional he was, you know what I mean, how much it meant to him. And I think even just the random guys that you sit next to when you go to Ibrox, you don't know very much about them because they'll give you a couple of words or whatever, or you'll talk to them. But I touched on this before, where like there was a couple of people who didn't come back to Ibrox after COVID and stuff, and although you'd only had a couple of words with them and stuff, you'd realise you'd had a strong, powerful connection with these people just because you walk by them when you're going to your seat. But at the game, it was brilliant. Just adults crying all over the place, just people letting out emotions. I personally stood still at the end of the game. I'm like, I can't believe this has just happened. You know, it was surreal. And obviously because I'd known that I had already booked to go to Seville, I was like, we're going, man. We're actually going here. And then the reality hit in about how am I going to actually get time off work? How am I going to afford this because I'm skint? But you don't think about them things at the time. But no, it was tremendous, and it was definitely. I think you touched on that here, Craig. It's a cracking point. It's not just a football experience. That's an experience that you'll carry the rest of your life, no matter what. You know, that getting and doing that, and you know, regardless of what happens now, I think we've got a strong. I think we've got a strong chance of winning the thing, obviously. But regardless of what happens now, nobody can take that away from us. What just happened there, and what I was saying when I was walking back to the bus, even in the euphoria, I was actually saying, you know, we should never actually take away how good a result that was against that Leipzig team, because they were the form team going into that game in the Bundesliga. How do you think the game sort of panned out? Obviously well for us, Davie, but did you ever feel under pressure at any point? Particularly, obviously, we go up a couple of goals. We are starting to get everything going for us, but Leipzig, obviously, when Kunku then bring it back at 2-1, cracking finish. I did feel at that point we were a bit shaky. I don't know if that was just my arse making buttons for the Copeland rear, but it did look like that. What about yourself?
Well, I thought it was a contest all the way to the final whistle, Chris, because they are a quality side. So, you know, it was never at any point until the referee blew the final whistle was I taking it for granted that we were going to do Leipzig. That final whistle was the confirmation we had done it, because they are a good side. You know, when you go back and look at, you know, in the cold light of day, you look at the possession stats, when they had 63% possession, you know, so and we had 37, you know, Scott Arfield, we had done a Scott Arfield, 37% possession. But in saying that, you know, we had as many, probably more shots in goal than they did. So it was making that possession count. So they did have a lot of the ball, but they weren't really getting through us. So, but certainly in the second half, to build up to their goal, you know, you're concerned. But, you know, but I think what blurred it for me really was that because we were all so invested in it, there wasn't really the for fuck's sake to have moments. So because we were just living every ball, and, you know, get through the next minute, and the whole crowd, you know, were just so invested in it. Then we get the goal. I didn't even realise that, you know, that it was 10 minutes to go. I'd kind of lost track of time. It was only when we'd scored the goal did I realise, you know, we're now into the last 10 minutes. You know, that last 10 minutes was absolutely fucking agony. I have to say that, to be honest. I mean, we ramped it up a notch in terms of, you know, every single ball, the referee's decision. It was just nuts. Then the release at the final whistle will live with me till my dying day. It was just fucking fantastic. It was just amazing. But I thought we went in, we had a chance. I would say possibly they were favourites, but we were never out the contest. We were still holding on to 2 each, was taking us to extra time. Lundstrom comes up with a fucking winner. We see out the last 10 minutes. Happy days.
Aye, I mean, I think even in the game in Leipzig, though, it's sometimes hard to tell when you're actually there, because it was so tense over there. But I could see what Gio was trying to do, and there's a bit of kind of arrogance about it, which is like, look, you give us your all at your stadium, but you're coming back to Ibrox, and I quite like that, because I think that fed into the fans as well. It's like the fans then felt, you know, we can actually do this here, and I don't think Leipzig ever collapsed, don't get me wrong, but obviously they've reflected on this as they've came out, the manager and some of the players. The atmosphere got to them, the noise, the passion, and a lot of people were saying think it was Derek Ray was one of the main people that said that Leipzig are used to playing in strong atmospheres because they've played in Dortmund and places like that. But see, when you watch German football, it's a different kind of atmosphere. It's like singing in unison, it's bouncing in unison. It's quite, there's people, Bayern Munich fans sitting in with Dortmund fans. Ibrox is hostile. Do you know what I mean? It's a hostile environment, and you respond to it or you crumble underneath it. So they did, to be fair, and I think that was evident for the off.
I think one difference though in terms of the atmosphere is that when you see the kind of continental games, the chants from the terracing are kind of irrespective of what's happening on the pitch. Whereas at Ibrox, everything is kind of fed from the pitch as to what song is sung, what the crowd reaction is. So everyone is just absolutely engrossed in what's happening. The referee gets it, opposition players get it, which you don't really get with the ultra, sing song from minute 1 to minute 90 when they've got a range of songs to get through, irrespective of what's happening on the pitch. That doesn't happen at Ibrox. Everything comes from the pitch.
You're spot on, mate. You're spot on, and I think that's what they were not used to. So, Craig, what about yourself in terms of the game, how it played out? Obviously, we go into that last 20 minutes, and the ball John Lundstrom pops up, a fan's favourite now after probably struggling towards the start of the season. Talk us through your emotions and how many rows you filled out celebrating that.
Just see when you see for anyone that listened back to the podcast last week, I was ridiculously confident about the game, and then I woke up the morning of the game and I was absolutely ill, and that feeling didn't go up until probably we scored the first goal, and then I was like, right, okay. It made it worse. I went to the fan zone thing with my wee boy, and Richard Goff was talking, and he's the first person that I'd heard in the build up to the game talk about what happens if we didn't do it, and I was like, don't talk like that, Richard, come on. Do you know what, I went in and I was absolutely ill with it, and it was one of the ones as well. Do you know, I was worried because there's been big games in Ibrox that I've went to and we've been building up the atmosphere, and then we go in the atmosphere, maybe I think it's hindered by the nerves, and you can tell that the full of Ibrox is nervous, and you didn't get that on Thursday. It was as if we've spoke about the synergy of the team and as one club with the fans, and that was what it was like. What Davie was talking about, the fans fed off the team fed off the fans, and it was like, I think it was maybe in the first 5-10 minutes, and Ryan Jack made that tackle, and you're going aye, and the team, and then it's like every single shy, every single ball that was contested, it was cheered like it was a goal. So I remember I went with my pal to the Feyenoord game, and we sat in the Feyenoord end. And people had warned me about what to expect and stuff, and the first couple of minutes they got a corner and they celebrated it like a goal, and I was like, what is going on here? And that must have been what the Leipzig fans were like. They must have been like, what is this all about? Because it is, when you watch the German football and you watch most continental football, you watch, it's that kind of droning noise, and whether it's a corner, whether it's a goal, it's very similar kind of noise levels that they give off. And it's, you mentioned John Lundstrom, man. The words, that song comes close to describing how I feel about that man. It's like, I don't know if you remember when there was a ball near the end, and he won it in the halfway line, and he battered down the line just like he did the extra time against Braga. Mm-hmm. And he actually lays it off, a really, really good ball, but he probably should have taken it into the corner. But it's like, the guy's just that commanding. There's nobody that can touch him. See, when he's on his game, I don't know how we managed to get him for what we got him for. I know there's been a lot said about the salary he's on. I can double that right now.
He's worth it. If he's obviously a free transfer, I think the Gerrard effect come into play for that one, but he's just took to it. And to be honest, Gio's get the best of him, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think one thing that that obviously is worth touching on for the game and the atmosphere, and I think for the players, was the impact of Jimmy Bell obviously passing away, and I suppose you never knew how that was going to go, and I suppose before the game. But when you had watched, obviously, the players' reaction when they scored their goals, if you're like me, Davie, if you've watched the full BT Sport thing a few times over and over, but the inside Ibrox was really good as well and emotional, because it was showing you just how much that meant to those players, and there was a calmness and a composure and a passion about them, which I thought was evident about Jimmy. Did you feel the same, Davie?
Absolutely. I think the influence of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is now being brought to bear on this team. You can see there's belief, there's the commitment, which we've had, the last couple of months. I think, obviously from the first game at Parkhead where we shit the nest, but since then things have clearly changed, and that there's been a heart-to-heart conversation, with the big boys in the dressing room. We can do this. We're a good side, as you've seen from Connor's goal statement. But one thing that did concern me was when Tab was on the press conference last week, and he's saying that his wee routine in leaving the dressing room was that Jimmy Bell would put his captain's armband on. I'm thinking, well, that isn't going to happen on Thursday. My concern with the last thought he's leaving the dressing room with is that Jimmy's no here with us, and I'm hoping that that's going to spur him on rather than slow him down, which clearly it had the desired effect. But that motivation, that was just a wee added motivation to go out, get the job done, resolve, commitment, and obviously Jimmy's passing was kind of absolute disaster for us. Disaster, not least for Jimmy's family. I mean, goodness sake, but I mean, all he represented through all the decades, from the manager to manager, and he just kind of carried the banner of tradition for us. He was players come, the players go. Jimmy was there to just make sure they set the tone, set the standard. This is who you play for. Play for Rangers. This is what we do. I mean, an absolute vital cog in the wheel of any club, but I mean, most of all our clubs. So, no, and you're wondering if that would have been wheeled out on his excuse, where I was off the ball. Clearly, it didn't detract from anything. It drove us on. It drove the team on. And I think they were already committed. It just took us up another 10%. And it was fantastic. The commitment of the players was just beyond reproach.
They were up for it. I think they were up for it from the start. And I'd commented to the boys round about me at the minute's silence. Ryan Jacks wheeled away for it, and he looked absolutely burst. He looked totally emotional. But you couldn't tell it. You couldn't tell it when the game started. But obviously a hard one for the club, and as you said, obviously Jimmy's family first and foremost. But I think the players used that as inspiration. But we got there. We won the game. Lundstrom obviously scores the third. Leipzig tried their best at the end. They had a couple of wee tidy passes getting into the box, and it was looking a bit dodgy. But as soon as the ref blew that whistle, it was euphoria. In the stadium, it was just bedlam. And I've saw different angles, different videos. Probably my favourite video actually comes for the Leipzig end, and it's somebody videoing it, and it's the Broomlin, I think, initially, and then they pan round the rest of the stadium, and it's just limbs everywhere, everybody celebrating it, and I quite liked as well. I don't know if you saw the Frankfurt West Ham game, but the Frankfurt fans went on the park, and I'm glad we never done that, because we got such a different response. With the players going round, and I must admit, seeing Alan McGregor singing the Blue Sea Ibrox was tremendous as well, because listen, he's copped a bit of flack this season, off me at times as well. Don't get me wrong, I've said a few things to him for Copeland. I hope he's not heard me, but anything I've said, I'm sorry, Alan. I hope you can forgive me, but pulled off an amazing save. But we're going there, it's secure. The question now for me, Craig, is can we do it? Can we beat Frankfurt in the final?
I think we can look at where Frankfurt are in their own league, and do comparisons to Dortmund and do comparisons to Leipzig. for me, the most important thing is a comparison to 2008. You compare it to the build-up, the teams that we played, the way that we played, how we got through each round. I mean, I think once the dust settles in this journey, and we can look back, it's pretty remarkable how we've played throughout. To think that we lost our first two groups, taking away the Champions League qualifiers and playoffs and what have you, and the group stages we lose our first two games, and then we then go on to, I think it's 16 goals that we scored in the knockout stages, something crazy like that. It's a mad amount of goals anyway, and it's you touched on it earlier on, where there's been games where Giovanni has, like, we went to Leipzig and it was almost as if it was like, right, let's see what you've got, because we're going to show you what we've got in a week's time. And we spoke about it last week, about the confidence in the team, where it's like we know what we need to do and we're pretty confident that we're going to do it. Each time that Rangers come up against a test, like Davie was talking about, when it was kind of backs against the wall, and particularly for like kind of 10 minutes, I remember that kind of dead 10-minute spell where I was like, we looked dead on our feet, and I was like, how are we even going to reach extra time? And then up pops Big John with the goal, and it's like every time a hurdle's put in front of this football team that we've got right now, they come up, and they don't just come up, they come up with trumps. Do you know what I mean? They don't just, it's like, who better than John Lundstrom to come up with that goal? Do you know what I mean? It's as if it's like there's somebody that's writing a script. And like, we can look at Frankfurt's played Barcelona, put them out. They've put out a Premier League team, a very, very strong Premier League team, by the way. Like West Ham are a very, very good football team. And a lot of people have said that they've had off nights against Frankfurt. And I would argue as well that West Ham were their own downfall against Frankfurt by losing the man practically at the start of the game, and gave themselves an uphill struggle. And if you look back at the highlights, there was a good few chances that West Ham should and probably would normally score. I don't want to sound too overly confident, because I actually prefer Rangers going in as underdogs. I've always preferred Rangers going into games as underdogs, but I can't help but go into this and think this is different for 2008. Of course, we deserved to be there in 2008, but it's a different kind of feeling going into this, where it's like every team, we've not just scraped past, we've beat pretty convincingly. Particularly again at Ibrox, when we've got our fans behind us, and no doubt, yes, I think it's only like 15,000 probably. There'll probably be about 20,000 Rangers fans in the stadium by the time people are spending like £2,000 and £3,000 in tickets. But I think Rangers will go and do it. I genuinely do, in 90 minutes.
Well, I hope so too. And I think when you're touching on 2008, I think this team, just feel more confident getting into these big games with them. They rise to that occasion, and it's nothing against the 2008 team, because up until now they were obviously heroes for getting us there. But the sort of method and the route that we've taken, we've dismantled teams, as you said. We've matched teams more or less away from him, although, all right, we've maybe not got the result in Braga and the result in Leipzig, but we've been confident enough to take them back. And to be honest, the Braga game we should have won by a lot more. That should never have went to extra time. We get the result against Dortmund. We also do Red Star, who aren't a bad team either. I felt 2008. I mean, I was just anxious that whole time. Do you know what I mean? Like big saves, penalty shootout. You know, it was one of those ones. But the top goal scorer of the tournament is your right back. So I mean, it tells you exactly everything you need to know about our team and how they've done to get here. What about yourself, Davie? Are you confident for the final? I think Craig's touched on a good point. I think Frankfurt are obviously, when you look at the league table, if you were to base it on that, probably a bit naive, because they've got some good results in this tournament. More than capable of going on the night next Wednesday and getting a result against us. But are you fancying us for it?
Well, I would say that the tie's probably 50-50, Chris. I had a wee look at the Leipzig West Ham game, and bizarrely the possession stats were exactly the same as our game against Leipzig, only in reverse, because Eintracht Frankfurt had 63% possession and West Ham had 37% possession. So we'd 37% possession and won 3-1, and they had 37 possession and lost 1-0. But West Ham had 6 strikes on target and they're 37%. So you can see that they're kind of following that kind of German pattern and have lots of the ball. They're lots of possession, but they don't really make it count in the final third. You know, they're the ding-dong thing. So I had to be looking through the highlights of their game against Barca and the West Ham, and I think Craig makes a cracking point. I think Creswell's getting sent off in 19 minutes utterly changed that game, you know, in terms of for Frankfurt. But it would have been far more of a contest, I think, had they continued with 11 men. But certainly, in terms of their league form, it's just about a three-way split between their 33 games they've played. They've only got one more league game to play. And it's 10, 11, 12, I think. So in terms of wins, losses and defeats. So it's like they've only won a third of their league games. So they've lost 12. So they're actually in deficit in terms of goals scored. So you know we can get at them. And what's been amazing though for the run that Rangers have been on is that we've been playing without a recognised centre forward. You know, and just took it on the chin. You know, and I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has probably been instrumental in that, in adapting the side, you know, and adapting the way we've been set up. And because I think Gerrard, when in his time, was more akin to, we'll play the same away from home as we will at Ibrox. Whereas you can see that Gio is far more flexible in how the whole thing operates. We just coped with no Roof, no Morelos, okay, then we'll find another way. And we did find another way. So, yeah, I've got to hand it to Gio. He has gone up immeasurably, in my estimation, in the last 2-3 months, because you just see this guy thinks this through. And the guys are going out. You can clearly see it when the team are on the pitch. They're going out with a plan. Stick to the plan. They've clearly got confidence in the manager, because it's everyone's in it together. And the team spirit, the level of commitment, I think we're in a good place. And I don't think we could be in a better place, actually, to be going to this final against a team. So we will be doing the homework against Eintracht Frankfurt. You know, anything can happen, Chris. Anything can happen. But I think I'm more confident than I would be being about Manchester, because obviously Zenit were a top-notch side. They pumped Bayern. I mean pumped Bayern in the semi before they got to us. Whereas I think Eintracht Frankfurt are certainly within our radar.
I would agree. I'm massively up for it myself, confident. I don't think we're in danger under Gio of taking this game for granted whatsoever. I think he'll have this well sussed. And also as well, I think we've got the Dutch advantage too. I think they'll have a fair understanding of what's happening in German football. I think Dutch and Germans have got a right good understanding of, each other's leagues. So I think Gio will be well prepared for it. I've been massively impressed by him over the last few months, as you say. Just some of the tweaks that he does, the dropping John Lundstrom into that third centre-half position at times as well. It really helps break up some of the press that happens against us. So I'm very intelligent for the touchline. And I think, depending on what happens, if we've got Roof fit or not, I think Gio will have different ways of attacking it. But no, I'm massively confident. I'm hugely confident getting in and coming back home with the trophy and that access to the Champions League. I'm massively confident, but we'll see. One of my criticisms of Gio, actually, I think at the start, was a reluctance to use any of the other players. It looked as if he didn't have a lot of trust in people. But as the season's unravelled, he's had to do that. And I think he had to do that, obviously, with the game against Dundee United at the weekend, because we saw quite a lot of fresh faces, young boys coming on, which was excellent to see, very composed players. Don't get me wrong, I think Dundee United was a massive come-down for Leipzig. It was a bit hard to get motivated for it, particularly with the way the league went. What about yourself, Craig? How did you view the game on Sunday? Obviously, we get the result we're looking for in the 3 points.
Aye. Do you know what? I actually only went to the game because I had my son with me. I was still like completely just. Do you know, I was engrossed with planning Seville. Like I've got it planned into a military position right now. But I went to the game, and do you know, see when I walked in and I seen the Union Bills with the sombreros and the beach balls, and there was a guy walking up and down the aisles with a Lilo. It was just a proper good feel factor about the place, and that continued. And you know, Rangers played what we probably deem a second string team out with maybe Cav and Goldson, and there was a lot of positives that I took from it. A lot of positives, including like Leon King, that just strolled it. Granted, he didn't have much to do, but when I seen the lineup and I seen Watt playing, I had a concern over certain players playing, like Barisic, Goldson, Tav, maybe other team players with maybe other persuasions of football teams, maybe leaving a foot in and stuff like that, and we were controlled. Do you know? See, I heard somebody saying it earlier on today. Like, see the way that we played that match. It was the way that I would have liked us to play it. Controlled, didn't go gung ho. I don't think it was ever going to be like that, if I'm being honest. I went into the match pretty much with a feeling of it's like a friendly. I know that there's no such thing, even an actual friendly for Rangers is not a friendly. It shouldn't be played like it, but I just wanted us to go out there and come out it unscathed. And to see Sakala, by the way, do you know, that was one of the negative. That was probably the only negative that I took away from Thursday night was Sakala not pressing. At times, he was the only player in that whole team that at times maybe didn't look as if he knew what his role was. Every other player knew exactly what he was to do. And then there was points where I was like absolutely screaming at him, just run. We played him through the middle, and there was times where he was taking on shots. There was a couple of points where, I mean, he laid on Diallo for the goal. Yeah. I mean, we've already commented on it last week about Sakala not having the best football mind. Probably maybe underrate him sometimes. I would have thought he was the type of player who would have just taken a shot. He had the insight to actually pass that out wide when it was a really, really good ball that he's actually laid on. I'm going to be honest, I left at half time. I never ever leave Ibrox early, but I was just absolutely exhausted. I came home and I went straight to my bed, if I'm being honest. I was absolutely exhausted from Thursday. And I'm going to be honest, I don't. I'm struggling to get myself up for the game midweek. I think these games, when we've got such an important week coming up with the Scottish Cup coming up as well, it's an inconvenience for me right now. Where you've got players that you're going to need to give them some game time to keep them up to scratch, but you're going to be playing against, Ross County. Thank God Big Tokley doesn't play for them, or Big Tokley played with them and played with Inverness, because it's a hatchet, man. Do you know what I mean? It's just Rangers' luck that Tav will go down the line and something will happen to him in one of these matches. So I instead of worrying about goals and stuff like that, I'm just worrying about Rangers players getting injured. That's my only concern.
No, I think you're right to have that as a worry, because we don't want any players getting injured, and I think we've commented on the podcast a few times about this Rangers team actually performing better when they're continually playing football, and they're not taking breaks and they're not taking rests. And I think Connor Goldson just tells every manager that he plays for that he's not getting taken off. I'm playing, that's it. And to be honest, I don't think any of the managers are going to win a square goal against him. So big man's obviously ruling the roost there. But if you see him walking about the pitch or strolling it when he's playing, but even at the end of the game, he's taking his top off. He is a tank. He is in the peak of his powers, man. He is. There's not a chance extra football's going to do anything bad to him. But other than the injuries, obviously, we need to keep an eye on that. What was your thoughts on the game, Davie? Similar to Craig, it was anti-climax for me, but obviously you're going through the motions. But I did get, I suppose, reinvigorated when I saw the young boys coming on, because I've followed some of them this year in the B games and obviously watched a couple of them obviously playing. I think the potential's 100%. Everybody's raving about Lowry, and I know Kevin Thompson does as well, says he's one of the most talented players he's ever saw at that age. But the one for me is Leon King. I think Leon King for me is going to be an absolute belter for Rangers. I know he's a big Rangers fan as well, massive Rangers family. So for me, I think he's the one to watch that's going to come through. But what about yourself? What was your thoughts on the boys that came through, Devine and also McCann?
I think I quite enjoyed myself on Sunday, albeit, it was a kind of lower key game, obviously. Anything was going to be lower key than Thursday night. But it was good to see, from when the team came out, that obviously Gio had made some changes. And obviously, I would have thought that, and I hope Gio does, that the game, on Sunday and Wednesday, when we're at Ross County, is that he just sees this as it's time to give guys minutes in the legs, looking at preparation time. Guys who need to rest, then rest. The guys like Goldson and Tavernier obviously just don't want to do that. Just say, well, okay, if you want to continue to play, then play. But I'm hoping he will just view this as just prep time for the main events. We have literally got 2 cup finals to concentrate on. The 2 league matches matter not a jot. But I think we have to go in, obviously they're playing for Rangers, we go in with a certain level of competitiveness and focus to get the job done. We're not going out there to concede anything, but using that time with the 2 cup finals in mind, get players on. I mean, Diallo, what a pace that boy can run at. Just a couple of times, I'm watching him the club deck and he just belts down that wing. The pace with which that boy moves, obviously he's got a lot to prove, in terms of you would hardly say it's been an outrageous success since he turned up, but these kind of fringe players who we may have to rely on, because we have to rely on a squad of players, when push comes to shove, and if, God forbid, someone does pick up an injury and then you have to call on these guys, then you want to be calling on them when they've got some, recent minutes on the pitch and that they're up to speed with the kind of the Geo setup and what will be required of them when they get there. So, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of churn over the squad the next 2 games and just get the guys, get the squad fit, not necessarily the first 11, get the squad prepared. Aaron Ramsey, it's absolute crucial minutes into that boy because he will be a big match player for us. Would you not play Aaron Ramsey in Seville against Frankfurt? You'd be calling on that sort of experience would be absolutely invaluable to us. So I'm hoping that Gio looks on these 2 games in that vein, that it's just about prep time for the main event.
Yeah, I think you make a couple of really good points there, and for us it feels like sort of dead rubbers, but there's certainly a couple of players in that squad who are going to be chomping at the bit to be starting. They're going to be chomping at the bit to be starting in the finals. And you made a good point there. I actually forgot about Scottish Cup final there for a wee minute because I'm so caught up with Seville. But that for these players, it's going to be huge to try and be on the manager's radar. And I think with Diallo, it's not been a great experience, obviously, probably for him and for us. But you can see the talent the boys got at the weekend there. And Ramsey's a great shout. I think the ball into Sakala for the penalty was unbelievable. Nobody else in the park sees that pass. Other than Ramsey. So getting him sharp, I think, would be, even if you need to call on him to come on or whatever, is massively important. But no, I think it was just good to get through the game, get minutes in the legs for people, get most of the players rested, the ones that are going to come off as a sub and not Goldson. But I think that was the main thing. And obviously on to Ross County on Wednesday. Again, feels like another one where we're probably going through the motions, but what about yourself, Craig? Are you going to get yourself G'd up for Wednesday, or are you going to be with the Subway loyal leaving at half time again?
In all honesty, I was going to say I probably won't go, but I will. For me, I'm at a point just now that I would normally slaughter people that are saying things that I'm saying just now, like, left at half time, and I don't know if I'm going to go on Wednesday and all that stuff. But I'm literally like, see if you ask my boss what I'm like about this just now, I'm not kicking a ball. Genuinely, like I'm just sitting there looking at YouTube videos. I'm looking at where I'm going to eat in Benno Medina on Tuesday. I'm checking beaches on where I'm going to be going. I'm thinking about what I'm probably going to do on the Thursday when we win. Ross County couldn't be any further from my head right now, which is probably absolutely rotten for a football podcast, but I need to be honest. But see what you're talking about, getting legs into football, into the legs of the players, is actually really important. I mean, we've seen it with Ramsey there. I was actually pretty surprised with how strong Ramsey was. Granted, there was a couple of times where he was overhitting passes, and I don't mean to sound derogatory about him, but there was points just before like the Old Firm game where he looked as if he was towing a caravan, and my main concern was that he was maybe a wee bit like Cranshaw, where an amazing football player, and you mentioned it, Chris, with the pass that he makes for Sakala with the penalty. Cranshaw was very similar, where he would come up with passes and he would come up with bits in the game, and you'd go, like, he's light years ahead of anybody else on that park in terms of football intelligence and what he can actually bring. But then there was another 80 minutes where he looked as if he was running on quicksand, and it took him like 10 minutes to turn in a 360. I was pleasantly surprised with how fit Ramsey looked. The fact that he was on the bench against Leipzig probably tells you a story that he was there to potentially do a job if required. So maybe another half against Ross County, or maybe more time for the Hearts game. But it probably is useful. I would hazard a guess that Van Bronckhorst knows probably what his starting 11 is. Do you know what I mean? Again, we were kind of led to believe that Roof was there or thereabouts for the Leipzig game. There's potential that he's just not wanting to risk him for these games and just put him out. But to answer your question, Ross County, again, is an inconvenience to myself.
You're on thebeach.com, aren't you? You're thinking about the good stuff. We'll get to it. Do you know what, mate? I'm going to be honest. I'll need to be honest. I'm the same. It's just ticking a box now till we get to the big one. But I'd imagine the players are going to want to obviously finish on a high for the game, and you're spot on. I think Gio will have mapped out probably the 11 over the next couple of games to get the priority now is the last two games, isn't it? The two finals. So he's probably mapping out there in terms of what's required. But a big week after that ahead.
You know, see something that I will just touch on tonight. I was driving back to the subway, because I'm one of the subway loyal, and my phone ran out of battery, and I never ever put on Clyde One or anything like that. I just detest listening to it, that and the other channel, the ones that are barred to Ibrox. I won't even mention who they are, but I was listening to the phone in, and Mark Wilson was like absolutely caning the players for walking around the lap of honour at the end of the game, and he's going, do you know, I had to laugh. He was basically saying, when we didn't win the league, I certainly didn't want to be doing that. And do you know what, I actually turned to my wee boy and I went, by the way, Kyle, he's never been in a semi-final, let alone a final of a European Cup. That guy is making comments about a team that has far surpassed anything that he's ever done, and he's actually caning them for. It's just even when guys can just potentially, you're just looking for them to just congratulate Rangers and go, it's brilliant what they've done, phenomenal. Can't even do it. He's like, look at the nick of them going round and clapping, and you're going, this team's actually going to a European final, and the fans are just wanting to appreciate it. I just wanted to touch on that. It's like, I very much listen to the fan media and stuff now, and I don't listen to like the stuff that comes on Clyde One. And there, I've gave it an opportunity. I thought they'll be really, really talking us up and stuff. And then you listen to Hugh Keevins, and it's like, it's an amazing achievement if they win it. And you're going, you still talk about Seville, like Celtic in 2003? Do you know what I mean? That was over 20 years ago.
I know. I think that makes it a wee bit sweeter. I've been noticing that on social media, like they've got a wall at their stadium, the Seville wall. They've got one of their suites, the Seville suite. So we've just matched that. Then, do you know what I mean? Their greatest achievement in modern history.
Chris, we've taken away the 10. Now we're taking away Seville. What next are we going to take away from them?
Well, we're going to obliterate Seville when we win that cup. I think that's the plan. David, what about yourself with Ross County? You up for it? You buzzing for Wednesday?
I am indeed. I mean, always got trips to Ibrox. I mean, the game on Wednesday will be only the second time that I've ever been to every home match in a season. The last time being when we won the championship, when we get promotion back. Normally there'll be one or two for whatever reason you miss, but for this season, I've been at them all, so I have to go just for that alone. But just to tick the last box. But I'm hoping that Gio sees this as I'm hoping that he'll be using this, get Ramsey on maybe another hour, and he then gets to make a decision as to whether Ramsey's a goer or a woer, because we're not going into the final, with guys who have got a question mark over their head. So if it serves that purpose for Gio, where he kind of looks at the 11 that he's looking to start, is Ramsey a factor, or is he no? Is he starting, or is he on the bench? Whatever. He will be using the game on Wednesday, the game on Saturday, for these purposes only. And I don't think he'll have the same 11 in mind for Seville as he will for Hampden. He's going to have to draw on the squad, so that, come what may, because the Wednesday night, some people will be more, if you're only mentally drained from Wednesday, then we'll have the game on the Saturday against Hearts. So he's going to have to draw two teams. What are the two teams that are going to get us off both hurdles? So we don't want one and not the other. We want both. And he will be looking at it that way. Obviously, we want to win them all. But that's basically all I'm hoping to see Rangers. Obviously, as we said before, no injuries. Get the minutes in the legs for the guy who he thinks may feature in this squad, who may have a role to play. And I'm thinking, Sakala, maybe Diallo, Scott Wright. These guys, where will they feature in my 11? What am I thinking here? So what are Frankfurt? He'll be analysing them. So he'll be drawing the best tools from his store to, take on that Frankfurt. He'll be planning it meticulously, as he has done with the previous rounds. And you can see how, he'll adapt the squad and the tactics to suit. And I'm sure that's what he's working on. That's all I want him to do on Wednesday.
Definitely. It's just about building on and building for the bigger games. So take a quick prediction from you, Davie, for Wednesday.
2-0.
2-0. Craig?
Go for 3-0.
3-0. 2-0, 3-0. I'm going to go with 2-0, same as Davie. 2-0. I fancy us to get the result, no matter what kind of team we put out. Don't get us wrong, Ross County have been a bit of a pain in the arse this season at different points. They went 1-0 up against us at Ibrox earlier on the season. We won, right enough, but I think obviously they'll be coming trying to get a result, but regardless, it's just about keeping the players ticking over and keeping them good. So we'll finish up with just a wee chat about Seville, Craig. You'll be happy to hear. So I take it, Davie, you've got yourself booked up for Seville?
We have indeed. I just booked the car today, so we're flying next Monday to Alicante, and then we're going to stay in Alicante the night, and then it'll be a drive-through to Seville on the Tuesday. There's an apartment, a 4-bedroom apartment booked for a whole gang of us for the 3-day fiesta, and then it's back to Alicante on the Thursday. The flight home on Thursday night from Alicante back to Manchester, and then a drive up the road. So we'll be back in time for Saturday. So.
Brilliant. I think that's important. I think a lot of people have booked travel that might not get them back in time for Saturday. Craig, we know about yourself. Benno Medina, is that where you're going?
Yeah, it certainly is. I back in January, I booked a flight from Leeds to Malaga for a tenner. It's the best tenner that I've ever spent in my life. I didn't book the flight home. I thought that was going to jinx us, so I left that, and it ended up costing me about 350 quid. So I didn't follow through, but I was going out on Monday, staying staying in Benalmadena on the Tuesday, probably have a wee chill day in the beach with a wee man, and managed to get a bus. That was a big panic, by the way. I think there's going to be thousands of people in the kind of Malaga, kind of Torremolinos area that's going to be proper struggling for transport. Managed to get a bus from some pub. It was a guy from California that managed to sort us up. So a big shout out to him, and going through for the day. Can I resign myself that I'm not going to get a ticket, but I really, I'm just buzzing to be there, to be honest. I'm like Andy Firth. I'm just absolutely buzzing to be there. I'll be like Andy Firth with the flag. But aye, and then back at 1 o'clock, and hopefully it's a 24-hour party. And it's not going to be just sitting in the sun on the Thursday, depressed out my head. But again, I'm really, really confident, and a wee lay-by in Mallorca on the way back, so I'll spend a wee 5 hours out in the sun in Mallorca before flying back.
It's a hard life, isn't it?
Certainly is. It certainly is.
Aye, we done, well, maybe not as early January, but we booked the route for the quarter-final and the semi-final and the final on the one go, and it cost us about 80 quid in flights in total. It was mental. The only one that we lost out on was the Atalanta one, which obviously we never played them. We played Leipzig. So we done well with that. And we're getting into Faro. So we're going to be staying in Albufeira. And we've just found out that we're on the Glaswegian bus from Albufeira into Seville. But it's going out. There's a lot of people been left without transport. So hopefully they get it sorted. But I am absolutely buzzing. Flying out on Monday from Manchester, and then back on Friday with hopefully the trophy celebration sometime after the Scottish Cup one. But it's brilliant, man. It's just surreal to be actually planning it, looking forward to it, looking up what you're going to be doing. So I hope the both of yous and obviously my group have an absolute belter on the Wednesday. The game that we're looking forward to this coming Wednesday. It's certainly not got a patch on the one a week later, so hopefully everybody enjoys it, and everybody that's listening to the podcast, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you are getting over to Seville, and we'll hopefully catch you over there. But an amazing week for Rangers. Let's look for another brilliant 9 or 10 days, because it would be the best of a lifetime, I think. But cheers for coming on, guys. Cheers, David. Cheers, Craig. And cheers to everybody for listening. We are the people.